educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank you very much for tuning in today. I have a person that's going to talk about something we don't ever really talk about on this show. You know, he is a business coach, of course, a certified exit planning advisor, which is something a little different today, which means he helps business owners generating 1 to 10 million revenue plan and execute a successful transition of their company to a family member, a third party, or their employees. On their timeline and their terms. A lot of times you can't do that on your terms. A lot of times it's a shock, right? You know, but over 3 million of the 6 million companies with 1 to 19 employees in the U.S. are owned by people age 55, and the vast majority of them do not have any kind of transition plan in place. Working with him he will help you get 2 ways: a huge reduction in stress and a significant increase in the value of your company, which all of us are looking for, especially when we're trying to come out of it. We want to make sure we have that nest egg that lasts us at least 5 years. So this gentleman will help us do that, and maybe we'll get into that. If not, of course, his information will be in the show notes. Thank y'all very much for listening today. I have Lynn. Lynn, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Maurice, great to be here. I appreciate the invite.
Oh, sure, no problem. So as I stated in the bio, you know, we're talking about exit strategies, and a lot of us entrepreneurs, you know, whether we're 12 years in like myself or people I've been dealing with that's been 30 years in, maybe even those of us that's only been 1 year in, we have not considered our exit strategy. Why is that even important?
It's super important because having an exit strategy really sets what you're doing today. Mm-hmm. So even if you think your exit is 20 years from now, mm-hmm. you should think about where you want to end up and then build back from that to figure out what you want to do today, tomorrow, to get ready for it. Again, even if it's a long way off. And I think a lot of people don't get ready for it. Mm-hmm. They don't think about it because they just, their heads down and they don't want to think about what's next. But it's really important to do because I don't know of any business owner that's run their business forever. Mm-hmm, so there will be a day when you're not running your business anymore.
So as I stated, some of us that are still relatively young in our business, right? We don't consider that. And I've heard at one time that we need to almost consider the exit strategy as soon as we even try to incorporate idea, so because it's that important. So is that something that you encourage someone to even consider as soon as they try to even just start their organization?
I do. I try to tell prospects and clients that exit strategy equals business strategy. Mm-hmm. They're really one and the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I encourage everybody right at the beginning to think about, you know what, I think 5 years from now, I want to be out of this business and I want to sell it for $10 million or mm-hmm. whatever the number is. And what that does is ground you and give you a goal to shoot for. Mm-hmm. But now everything you do should work toward that. And it can change, but you should have that plan from the beginning.
So what have you come across as the 5 reasons why business owners don't plan for this or create this exit strategy? Because I know that's not one of the first things that's on my mind.
Well, there are a few. So one of the big reasons that people don't put an exit strategy in place is they think it's too complicated. Mm-hmm. And look, there are some pieces to it that you need to think about. You need more than yourself, typically. Mm-hmm. I think about exit planning as a 3-legged stool. There's a personal side to it, which is, what am I going to do after this, right? What's mm-hmm. my next great thing? You need to be thinking about that early. The second piece is the personal financial side. What do I want out of this business, right? Mm-hmm. From a personal financial perspective. And then the third piece is the business side, right? And so that's how do I build this thing so that it has great value when I'm ready to move on. And so you need other people, you need accountants, you need financial planners, you need lawyers to do some of these things. So I think that freaks people out. So that's one big reason is they don't do exit planning early enough. A second reason that they don't do it is they think they want to run this business forever, and they can't imagine a scenario where they're not running it. Well, Maurice, I just want to share one stat with you, and it's kind of a terrifying stat, is that fully 50% of the businesses in the United States transition involuntarily. That means is the owner didn't intend to sell. And there are 5 big reasons for that. We call them the 5 Ds. Death, disability, distress, disagreements, and divorce. And so those things happen in about half the cases. And if you have a plan, an exit strategy, they still happen, right? But it reduces the trauma level. If you've got a plan in place for if something happens to you as the business owner, the business can continue. So even though you don't want to ever think about leaving, you really need to, because those things happen, right? And they happen to young people, they happen to old people, and every place in between. But I think that's one reason. The third, I'll stick to 3 reasons. The third reason is that a lot of business owners have no independence from their company. They are their company. And that's great because you want passion and you want them to, you want them to believe. The problem is if there is no independence, that business is unsaleable. So you can't teach somebody else how to run that business. If you don't have people around you who understand how the business works, you can't sell it. Because what is somebody buying? They're not buying you, right? They're buying a business that is an ongoing concern. So I think that is really my biggest reason why business owners don't do planning, is because they're so wrapped up in it. But it's the biggest reason that their company won't sell unless they get to a point where they can distance themselves from it.
One of the words that come to mind, which is a few, which you're talking about, which is forecasting. A lot of us don't plan for a whole lot of different reasons, and we're talking about exit strategy. For a lot of us don't have our finances together correctly. We don't understand what's really going to take for us to get our name out there, how to manage our employees, things, let alone something as simple as it sounds, being this exit strategy. So how would you encourage someone to make sure that they have that on that list of forecasting? Because a lot of us don't have that.
Yeah, so forecasting is important, but the one thing I want to make really clear is that putting together an exit strategy isn't another activity. It's really focusing on the things that make your business great today, or will make your business great, right? So having great accounting is one of the crucial pieces when it comes time to transition out of your company. If you don't have good financials, that will kill more deals than just about anything else. Another component to it is being able to know what metrics drive your business. And those are backward-looking metrics and forward-looking metrics. So this is the case where, I know that my gross margin is this, and maybe my expense ratios are that. But being able to forecast in the future is incredibly important, because that's another piece. When you go to sell your company, a lot of it is based on your past experience, but a big piece of it is this business going to continue to grow? And so you've got to be able to reliably predict what your business is going to be. So it's better to get good at that early on and be able to project. And you're not always going to be perfect, but as over time, you're going to get better. And that is a crucial factor when a potential buyer comes in and you can say, I've been able to forecast out with, 3% accuracy, or, 97% accuracy. That's a huge benefit to you when it comes time to sell.
So Lynn, answer this for me. So what made you consider coaching individuals in this part of the process? Again, this is something that we don't talk about at all. And I have plenty of clients that are so far away, they're retirement age, but they have no idea about this. So what made you have that type of passion for this?
Well, there are a couple of reasons. The biggest reason I have passion for exit planning and succession planning is one of my first clients was a 72-year-old woman who had run an incredibly successful retail store with her husband for over 50 years. And she was involved in the business, but he unfortunately passed away. And so as much as she had worked in the business for all that time, there were big pieces that she didn't know a lot about. And so it was an incredibly stressful period for her because she said, I don't know what's going to happen to this business. And it got to the point where one of our first conversations, she said, Len, I can't sleep at night. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. So we worked out a plan. We talked about, here are the options. You could sell it, you could shut it down, you could pass it along to a family member, right? Those are three very logical options. Another would be to sell it to an employee. And we worked through all those options, pros and cons, and came to the decision that passing it along to a family member was the best fit for everyone involved. And so she made that decision, and we worked the plan, right? We worked the rest of the plan to get the coverage for the pieces she wasn't familiar with. And now she called me and she said, Len, I can sleep at night. And I said, wow, I think I found my why. Right. So it was one of those early clients that really got me down this path. And then I did research and I found out that, 3 million of the 6 million businesses are owned by people older, right? And they're not well prepared. So that was my reasoning for focusing on this area.
So, you've said it more than once, excuse me, and as a part of your the D's. Now you reiterated it again, where this lady had not decided on how she's going to transition her company, whether it's going to be an employee or a family member, whatever it is. And a lot of times we hold on too tight. We don't allow anyone else in, because we don't trust anybody, especially when we have a vision for ourselves, where we want to go, where we need it to go. So we don't trust anybody. So how important is it for us to trust someone with our organization to even think about the exit strategy?
It's incredibly important to build up a team of trusted advisors. Some of those people are going to be external. I talked about them earlier, accountants, lawyers, financial planners. But there absolutely needs to be one of two things internally. Either you have to have a team of people that you can trust to run certain parts of your business. And I'm going to talk about the benefits of that in a second. Or the second piece is that you just need to document everything, right? The biggest issue I run into with small business owners is that 90% of everything about the business is only in their head. You hinted at it earlier. So documenting exactly how your business works is super important. And it doesn't have to be boring like it used to be. It doesn't have to just be written documents. You can record short videos saying, this is how this works, right? 3-minute video can be really, really helpful. So let me get back to why it's great to have a trusted team. You can take a vacation. So funny story. I have a friend of mine who runs a business, a very successful business, but he's one of these guys who, it's really tight. He does everything. And I said, what happens when you go on vacation? How do you unwind? He says, I don't. I still have to manage the schedule. I still have to call everyone. And I said, that's not a winning solution. Again, you can't sell the business and you're not going to get the value for it until you can figure out how to get that independence and get other people to do parts of it. So hopefully that was a good answer for you in terms of
no, it's good
how important it is.
Because a lot of times, especially when we're starting out, we don't know how to trust. We're not taught how to trust in a lot of situations. And when we get consumed with looking at other individuals, talking to other individuals, hey, you're trying to grow it and now you become a consumed. Like you said, that lady then she couldn't sleep. So now it's your baby, you're nursing it, you're feeding it. So you don't know how, just like regular kids, sometimes you just don't know how to let go.
Yeah. I do have another tip here on how to let go of some things. So if you think about why you went into business, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be you wanted to bake cookies, right? Or you wanted to be an architect, whatever your business is. But there's the thing that you really enjoy. But as an entrepreneur, you have to do everything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be an accountant, you have to be an HR person, you have to have all these other hats. So my tip is really try to focus on the things that you're really, really good at and that you enjoy
Mm-hmm.
doing, and find other people to do the things that you hate to do. Okay, so that's the first part. The second piece to it, and you can argue with me about the percentage, but be okay when you outsource, when you trust somebody, be okay with them doing it 80% as good as you would do it. Right? If you think that everybody can do it as 100% as good as you, you're never going to be able to let go. So you've got to have this threshold where you say, I know it's not perfect, but it's good enough, because now that allows me to focus on much higher level things that add more value.
So how would someone, I guess, lower their standards, because a lot of times we don't want to do that. We have this image in our mind. We need to be duplicatable. Everyone needs to do it exactly like us. Again, like I just mentioned a few moments ago, like our own children, right? You expect for them to be like you, look like you, act like you, everything, right? But then you realize that they turn 21 years old and you're like, you don't live underneath my roof anymore, but you have so many different ideals and standards of your own, and I think about that as employees or whatever it is. Like, everyone has their own method to their madness, and I think that's something that we need to respect. A lot of the times we don't respect everybody else's space.
I agree, and that's where I came up with that 80% rule. Is nobody is you, right? Nobody has your level of passion about the business, your level of entrepreneurship. Think about it this way: there are kind of three. If you think about eyes of an entrepreneur, there are three eyes that I talk about. Eyes like you see with, not eyes the letter. The first eye is the entrepreneur's eye, right? Always looking forward, thinking about big stuff, right? Great ideas, not concerned with the details, right? Big ideas. The second eye is the manager eye. So the manager eye is typically looking backwards. This is the accounting and the keeping track and making sure that things are kind of in place. And the third eye is called the eye of the technician, and this is the in the weeds, doing the stuff, right? And I'm going to use a simple example of a McDonald's restaurant. The technician, the person working the fryolator, is making what, $15 an hour, maybe. The manager of the McDonald's, the manager level, is probably making 5 times that, maybe, right? 4 to 5 times. The owner of the McDonald's should be making 100 times what the fry cook is making. So when you ask, how do you let go? You let go because that entrepreneurial piece is the highest value. So that's what you should be spending your time on. And look, you need to do a little bit of each. But if you're down in the technician working in the weeds, that's not high value. So that's my answer as to how do you let go.
A lot of times we lose track of the value, even those smaller roles, because those individuals are the ones that probably know the business at some point in time better than us, because they're doing the day to day. Some of us that are in that CEO position, we're too busy, let's say, networking, right?
Doing big stuff, right?
Right.
Forward looking, right? Yeah.
So I think one of the things that you're referring to as far as trust, understanding like, hey, you know what? These people that are working day to day, whether it is the manager or the technician, they have our best interests at heart, because otherwise they may not always be here. Now, granted, we do have our personal situations. I'm here for a paycheck. A lot of us are in that space, but or have been in that space. But let's understand that these people do have value and that we can trust them as we're trying to exit out the company. So that's just a little piece that I'm hearing you say too.
Absolutely. So the way I look at it in terms of is the old Ronald Reagan saying, trust but verify, right?
Hmm.
So you trust them to do your job, but you do have some checkpoints, right? You do have some things that you can quickly gauge whether they're doing their job
Hmm.
so well or not, right? And so you can't be completely divorced of what's going on, but you can't be in the weeds because
Hmm.
it's really frustrating, right? If somebody's looking over your shoulder when you're trying to do your stuff. So I completely agree with you that, yeah, you got to trust that people are doing their jobs and they're there for the right reason, but you also do need to check every now and then.
So Lynn, I thank you very much for coming on the show. My question to you: if someone has their company and they want to start this exit plan, this strategy, where can they reach out to you to get this information and talk to you about this?
Yeah, the best place to go is my website, which is greaterheightscoaching.com. And I've got a fair bit of information on there. I also have
Hmm.
a free tool that'll give you a quick idea of how much your company is worth. And it'll also give you some ideas of the things that are maybe holding back your valuation. So it's free, takes about 10 minutes to do. And that's a really great thing. If you just want to have a quick idea, you pick your industry, you enter your revenue and your income, and it'll generate a potential value for you. So greaterheightscoaching.com is where to go.
All right, cool. I appreciate it, Lynn. I thank you very much for coming on. But as I spoke to you in the green room, real quick, the question I ask everybody, which is the world, would you rather question. So, would you rather choose three doors or a fork in the road?
I'm going to go with I'd rather choose one of three doors.
Really? Okay. And why is that? Why would you like to choose three doors?
So I understand that it's potentially, one out of three, and all three may be good, right?
Hmm.
So, but my philosophy in life is even things that on the surface look bad, always have a gift within them. So my take
Mm.
is whatever the option is, I'm going to make the best of that and learn how to learn from it and see it as a gift rather than a hindrance.
Lynn, I hear that and I think of glass half full versus half empty. And a lot of times we don't look at life like that. We have so many, we look at the news or whatever it is, and it just pulls us down. So we're kind of a half glass, glass half empty mentality. So I appreciate that refreshing idea or thought that you know, because there has to be something behind it that you could use.
Exactly. And sometimes it's really hard to, to find the gift, you know, uh, but it's there and you just have to find it.
And I think that if we something that we don't use very often is our imagination, and our understand what all the resources that are at our fingertips. We could do whatever we
I,
want with anything that's in our hand.
I agree. I agree.
So yeah, but Lynn, but I thank you very much for coming on the show.
I appreciate it. This was really enjoyable.
Cool.
Thanks.
Cool. Thank you very much. And thank y'all very much for listening today. Of course, all his information will be in the bio. Thank y'all very much for listening. And I will talk to y'all a little later.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?